Online Voices and the 616 Company presents The Book of the Unguided, Canto II, by Darren William Pearce. Based on an original story by Richard Sjunnesson, narrated by Behr. Prologue, Adam's Knee. I have seen the time before time. I have seen the throne of Tetragrammaton. I have been to the very center of heaven, constructed by the unknown forces that gave birth to so much. The center, with its purpose to shine divine light upon the tree of life that stood proudly tall and commanding beneath it. Its roots vast and ever-present, reaching through time and space to bind all lands under the sky in 9 circles. I can tell you, as I witnessed all of this, I can tell you of the system that the throne belonged to, the very pivot of this whole tapestry, part of a sensorium which was aware of all its surroundings. It knew of events both near and far. It was all part of the grand plan to help nurture and supply life force to all places of the world equally. We had created, my brothers and I, with the help of power beyond our own, this organic infrastructure that was vital and important to all creation. We planted the seed of this tree, watched it grow, mature, and become strong to stand guard for eternity at the foot of the great throne. It was not our greatest accomplishment, but one of many that we could be proud of. We served the Seraphim as the 7 to maintain and monitor the vital function of the tree and its vast root ecosystem as it penetrated all of reality, touching all worlds at once, feeding the divine power and the mortal simultaneously. We have witnessed wonders and terrors in equal measure, the bright light of heaven and the all-encompassing shadow of the darker universe. We have seen the birth of countless worlds, and we know, or we can at least guess, that when one is born, these seraphim have their divine hand behind it. They orchestrate life, crafting the world, ensuring there is harmony and balance upon the surface, and that what life is there can grow and mature. We like to think of them as an order of world crafters and God shapers. To us, this concept does not seem wholly unreasonable. What of these seraphim, though? How do we see them? To us, they appear not too unlike those beings we have come to know as humans. Perhaps they are a reflection of these divine energies. Or there is another template at work we yet do not know. What sets them apart from the humans are their wings, 6 of them, magnificent reflections of the dawn's early light, pregnant with their radiant angelic luminescence. What you must know, of course, is that man had not yet been created, so perhaps it is not accurate for me to say that the seraphim reminded us of humans. Instead, perhaps I should say that humans echo so much of that which is seraphim, sans wings, and the power of the divine that gives these angelic beings so much charisma and beauty. So yes, man did not yet exist, and we had other tasks that required our attention. Along with the seraphim, we shepherded the primal forces that make up the cosmos. Carefully, always carefully, ensuring that the right mix of spirits, forces, and entities were drawn down. Lured, you might say, Then, like some form of a cosmic alchemist, we would turn our attention to stirring this morass of potential, until after much refinement, we provoked the entities to stir consciousness within themselves. As mortals, you would come to know these beings as gods. Yes, gods, great and small, who were created thanks to the seraphim and ourselves. God is a good enough word as any for these entities of power, and, as you know, there has been a multitude from the various pantheons throughout history. We watched with a great deal of interest. As the affairs of the gods grew, their power grew, and the seraphim, along with us, kept a careful eye on all that transpired. As the gods were defined, they all had different properties, personalities, skills, and of course, different agendas. They were made distinct from one another, of course, all extremely talented in their own ways, and all driven by their own needs, wants, and desires. Yet there was only one throne, one seat of power that mattered to the seraphim and us. We needed one of these beings to serve as the head of all gods, to take the one seat of power that straddled the tree, to become the one who became the very pulse of the world. To do this, the seraphim decided to test them all, thoroughly, without rest and without mercy. These tests were long, hard and grueling. The seraphim saw some of the lesser gods fall by the wayside to return to the essence from which they came. I remember, though, when I first saw him. He was the most commanding of all the gods who was tested. He outshined them all. He was a bright star with a power to shift reality and to shape flesh. He was known to us as the god named Apophis. His skill was magnificent and extraordinary. He had the power to craft living flesh from the cosmic building blocks of life. Surely he would be the one to take the mantle and throne most exalted. Apophis was clever as well. We saw this. The seraphim saw it too. The god crafted a creature in the seraphim's own image, set him to grow as a fruit upon the tree of life. This stunning spectacle played out for us all, and it was the birth of the first human. He was given a name by Apophis, a name that would echo through time and space: Adam. So it was that the dawn of man came upon us, marking for the seven a glorious moment, and for our calendar of sorts, year 0. This show of power, this incredible feat of creation, impressed the seraphim beyond all doubt. Apophis was accepted as the god who would sit upon the throne to be the heart of the world. This position and place could only be inhabited by one being of power, though, so it was that upon the very same day that the god Apophis sat upon the heavenly throne. The other gods were banished from heaven and sent to their own realms and dimensions to find their own place in the tapestry of the cosmos. We saw Apophis take full control of the Tree of Life, enmesh his power with it, and gain its infinite reach. Yet he was not done. Adam was but one man, and Apophis reasoned that to complete his great work, he needed to create for him a companion. So Apophis once more touched the tree of life, and it bore fruit. This fruit was different and a perfect companion to man, equal in nakedness and equal in spirit. Adam's companion was named Eve. Upon the seventh day of creation, she was born unto the new world. This we saw unfold, and it took our breath away. Adam and Eve walked their new world under the watchful eye of all of us. Apophis included who monitored how his life adapted to their home. They watched, as did we, as their world was slowly constructed around them. They swam in its rivers, ran across its plains, and played in its lush gardens. They came together many times, drawn by their attraction to each other. The pair had many children in this time, and thus we saw a rise in the world's population as their offspring sired children of their own. Humankind increased in number almost exponentially after a time. To aid them in this world and to provide for them, Apophis introduced new species over time, new beings who could live in harmony beside the fledgling humans. Our story seems grand so far, full of life and potential, with nary a dark cloud over it. This I wish was true. But soon a blackness would come over this new world and heaven would be shaken to its roots. In the case of the tree, literally. As time passed, we noticed that Eve was no longer as happy as she was. And so concerned with her well-being were we, that secretly we spied upon her and Adam to see what had transpired. We saw that Adam and his firstborn daughter had become close, not in a passionate way, but in a father-daughter relationship built upon love and respect. We observed that they talked about a great many things. Adam taught her all about the world and his experiences, his philosophy and understanding. He neglected Eve in this way, and the woman grew jealous of her beautiful daughter. Her mind turned to thoughts that were dark, unfriendly, and unwanted in this world. Yet she thought them, and they grew in number, festering in her mind. What we did not see, until it was vastly too late, was Apophis's scheme, a plan he hid from all of us until it was enacted. By then, we could do little to stop it. We were left as bystanders to a great tragedy, born of hubris. Whilst Adam and Eve's relationship soured upon the ground, Apophis secretly turned his attention to the tree of life. Over time, he began to poison the tree. He removed the power of creation from the high throne to ensure that he was the only being capable of such. In his sort of madness, he allowed fear to cloud his judgment. He had fear of losing his power to a usurper from the ranks of the gods, someone else who could impress the high guard and take the throne from him. This he would not allow, so we were all shocked and amazed when the tree of life died. Power is an interesting thing. It can never be created nor destroyed, much like energy. So, the dying tree passed its power to the next in line, Apophis's firstborn, Adam. Adam did not know that he had been given such responsibility and power, the power of the tree to maintain all life and to bind the planet together. We knew, though, eventually. We can tell you that Adam gained a complete immunity to the ravages of age. He also gained an immunity to the elemental forces, no longer to suffer the effects of heat or cold. He now became the very nexus of all things that kept the world together, bound to the fate of every living being upon the planet. He did not know that if he ever lost that power, the fate of the world would also be sealed. All things would cease to be. Whilst Adam was unaware, he watched in horror as Eve drew her plans, her mind now thoroughly poisoned by jealousy and envy. She had seen the trees decay and watched it sicken. It was this sickness that gave her the idea for her betrayal, so she slipped away to plan and plot whilst Adam continued to dote upon his daughter. Now we move into the most troublesome, worrisome, and sad aspect of our tale so far: Eve's betrayal and the first death. On one of her many frequent trips away from Adam, Eve discovered that the sickly tree had almost died, and while she observed, she saw a creature drink from its sap. It was quickly killed, and her eyes lit with the fires of revenge. She swiftly worked to fashion a bow from the poisonous wood. She crafted arrows using the tree's sharpened branches and feathers from the dead creature. Then she laced these arrows with Apophis's venom and crept away as silently as she came. It saddens me to recall this event, but here humanity had crafted its first weapon, and much later on in history, they would know the bow as death's sting. Now, where was I? Ah, yes, Eve. Let me tell you of Eve's actions so that you are not doomed to repeat them. This is how it transpired. This is how the firstborn man died. As the new day dawned, Adam bid farewell to his family and began his early morning excursion into the lands surrounding his home. He did not make it far, for Eve followed her husband and ambushed him. Her anger, hate, and envy reflected brightly in her eyes. She leapt from the bushes and unleashed a swift, poisonous arrow. It struck Adam in the knee and shredded his flesh. It cracked his bone and brought him low. Adam whispered, "Why?" But all he could hear was his racing heart as his body succumbed to the poison. We could have saved him, or at least the seraphim could, but we watched, all of us, in shock. What came next was incredible and terrifying in equal measure. Adam's gift from the great tree manifested. As his body died, his spirit embraced the light of lights and was borne heavenward like a shooting star. Eve left her husband's body to rot. So great was her anger that she did not even bury the man. An explosion rocked the heavens, and the seraphim became aware of Eve's treachery. At the same time, they learned of the tree's fate. They were furious, as such beings could manifest that emotion. They scoured heaven looking for the culprit, and they left no stone unturned. We followed with them, certain we would be called to action as warriors to punish the being responsible. All the clues that the seraphim found led them to one conclusion: Apophis. So angered by his betrayal, the seraphim found the god and accused him of numerous crimes. In his hubris, his greed, and lust for power, they found all they needed to know. He had laid waste to the tree of life, supplied humanity with a recipe of death, and taught them how to end life prematurely. There was but one punishment for this. The seraphim dethroned the god. They threw him to the floor of heaven's throne, so that the white gold marble cracked, and the sky broke on the mortal world. Torrents of thunder and lightning bathed Eve's home, and she grew fearful. In heaven it fell to us, the seven, the most revered warriors of the High Guard, to enact the seraphim's will. And we did. We took the god and bound him in chains of storm and fury. We held him aloft over the great ladder to the earth, and we cast him down. His fall broke the spine of the world. He plummeted so fast that we were barely able to see where his final destination was. A tomb of lava beneath the crust of the planet. Heaven was unbalanced. Creation teetered upon the brink, and all came so close to destruction. We implored the gods who now roamed the earth that one might sit upon the throne to save all creation. Our pleas, even those of the seraphim, fell upon deaf ears. What care did the gods, who were once abandoned by their makers, have for the fate of which that they had no part of? So the seraphim did what they had no recourse but to do. They enthroned Adam and raised him most high. This first heavenly reborn man became the first angel to lead heaven, to hold the fate of all in his palm. Adam, fruit of the tree, savior of all.